Alright. Hello. So today, I kind of want to talk about this whole, patriarchy thing. That, obviously doesn't exist, but, well, feminists and SJWs are always talking about it, so might as well address it, and, well, why it's complete and utter nonsense, but, yeah, you know. So, the idea of patriarchy is that, basically that it's a system of governance in which the father or the eldest male is the head of the family and descendants are traced, down the line, to the male line, I guess. And it's also a system of governments where men hold the most power, right? And apparently women are then excluded from it because the men hold the power. It's interesting, and it may have relevance to the past in some time, but relevance to today? No. It has no relevance beyond maybe last names. Because traced through the male line, I guess, usually women take the husband's last name. Maybe that's the last vestige of patriarchy I can actually see. But I don't really think that's a problem at all. Because last names are kind of irrelevant to a lot of things. It's just a word used to describe you. That's all names are, really. Anyway, yeah, so patriarchy doesn't exist. Because, first off, in modern politics, especially here in our lovely little Western bubble of insanity, men, sure, have more positions of power. That is true. There are more male politicians in the world. Especially, in the non-West, but also here in the West. So yeah, men have more power. But the key thing is they don't work for other men. They don't care what other men think and believe at all. They are usually people who are lifting women up in the way they think is right, which is pandering, pretty much. So, for example, the people of the Democratic Party are usually the ones who are very much in favor of things like welfare. That, let's be honest, is just the single mother breeding ground. That's all it really is. Because it's this backup system that women can have, where if they don't like their man enough, they can just leave them, and then have this safety net. So they don't have to be good people, because they can just leave whenever they want. The man has to be the good person, and, then they can just leave and let him do what he wants, right? Because he gets screwed over with the child support, and she gets a nice safety net from the government. And this is definitely not just a social problem, it's also a considerable problem in the African-American black community, where black women have this in a higher regard than white women. And yeah, it's a significant problem that needs to be addressed, and people need to stop pandering to single mothers the way they do. They're failures. That's what they are. Why can't we just say they failed? Because they did. But no, because we don't live in a patriarchy, because we aren't allowed to criticize them. Now, one of my favorite quotes is that quote from, I forget where it's from, but basically, you know who the person in power is by the ones you you can't criticize? I'm not saying it exactly, I don't have it off the top of my head, but that's the quote I'm talking about. Paraphrase quote. But yeah, it's the people who are actually in power are the ones who don't want to be criticized because they want to keep their power. And obviously, in every sense of the word, women have the power in the Western world. It's not even a debate, it is a fact. It is so obviously a fact. And it's clear. It is so clear. And because they do, they don't want to be criticized. And when you aren't criticized, you get to develop your own bubbles of insanity that, eventually bring us into this third wave feminism nonsense and this whole SJW mentality. It's just a bunch of projected nonsense usually, because the people who spout like SJW stuff are usually the truly sexist people and the truly racist people, the truly homophobic people, the ones who won't let those people have their own agency, who won't let those people make their own mistakes and, have credit for those mistakes. It doesn't matter that you're gay, it doesn't matter that you're straight, it doesn't matter that you're black or white or, woman, man, whatever. If you make a mistake, you fuck up. You deserve the consequences, right? But in the SJW mentality, it's only the people who, quote, have the power that are supposed to, pay for it. And then the people who are victims, who are actually, the asshole racists that, maybe black, maybe, anything, because there's a lot of black racists, let's be honest. There are quite a lot, and I've seen them quite a bit, because, well, the city I live in, we had a significant boost in the African American community, and it is very clear that, well, there's a certain percentage of them that loathe white people, and they came from Chicago, so they have brought quite a lot of their drug crime with them as well, and it's not all black people for sure, but it's a significant enough portion for the crime rate to increase in my city. So, yeah, it's this whole, you can't criticize people because they're this certain demographic is so racist, so sexist, and so homophobic that I can't believe these people think they're doing the right thing. Because if you don't let people have their own agency for their own lives, and, be able to admit that they've made a mistake or they've done a horrible thing, if they don't have that, if they're being told, oh no, you can't do bad things because you're black or you're gay or you're a woman, then of course they're going to become incredible narcissists. And of course they're going to start doing terrible things that nobody can criticize. Because, well, you can't in the SJW mentality. You can't criticize them at all. No, excuse me. But yeah, you have to. Everyone has to be criticized for their horrible ideas, right? Everyone has to have criticism laid at them. And if the criticism is unjust, of course they can fight it. Of course you can not accept the criticism, it's your choice. But if you're not even allowed to criticize someone for what they believe, or what they say, or what they spew, then you are living in a nightmare realm, a nightmare world that doesn't make any sense and causes horrible things to happen. Like, if you don't have the freedom to say fuck you to someone, then what is the point to life? If you can't say what's on your mind, what you think, what you believe, what's the point of even living? That's the point of our consciousness. That's the point of us being able to make decisions for ourselves. We need to be able to do that, or everything just falls apart, and what's the point of free will? If it even exists, I don't know. Maybe you don't have free will, and it's all your brain chemistry, whatever. I think we have free will. I don't really buy into that, but if we don't, well, then I can't really stop it, I suppose. But yeah, if we don't have the choice to do what we want, and criticize who we want, and, have the freedom to bring our ideas to the world, to the forefront, then there's no point to anything. Really. There's no point. So the patriarchy thing And this whole, it's always white men, is the biggest annoyance to the modern world. Especially because, sure, white men have done awful things. Awful for sure. There's no question that that is a fact. However, white men have done some of the greatest things in human history. And one of them being the abolition of slavery. Like, that was mostly white men who did that. It was mostly white men. There were other white women, and there were blacks, obviously, who wanted slavery gone, and all these other people wanted it gone as well, but it was white men, mostly, who abolished it, and who went out of their way to stop it across the world. It is clear that white men are not perfect, just like everyone else in this godforsaken world. And you know what I mean. But to say we're always evil is such a waste of everyone's time. It's just, every time I hear that, I just lift up the middle finger and say, fuck you. Because it is so sickening. And the fact that you hear it all the time in college is the biggest problem of the college system to me. It's just, because I've been in college for almost 3 years now. And, I mean, it's definitely increased in recent times, but I've always heard this, white men are evil stuff. And thankfully my high school wasn't really an SJW creating hotbed, but it was still something you heard. It was still something you always heard. At least somebody think. And it was especially people who were minorities or women that were always spouting that and always saying that you couldn't have an opinion because you were white and male, and especially if you were straight too. It's just, it's so sexist, it's so racist, and it's so straightist or whatever. It's just clearly designed to shut you up. And that's the whole point of patriarchy. It's like, well, we're gonna pretend we don't actually hate men, we just hate the systems men create, which, is pretty much men, so, we don't really hate men. That's why patriarchy exists, because they used to just hate men, and then people are like, well, yeah, you just hate men, and everyone knew they hated men, so they were like, well, yeah, we do, but we can't let people know that, so we're gonna create this thing called patriarchy that's just gonna replace men, because if you take anything they say about patriarchy, just replace that word with men. Every time it works, pretty much every time it works well. So it's like, well, the patriarchy causes the wage gap. Change it to men cause the wage gap. That's what they believe. That is what they believe. Exactly what they believe. The patriarchy is just a word that they created to say, well, if we want to be accepted by most people, we have to say something beyond men. Because some people actually like men. So some women actually enjoy men's company and actually care about them. Surprisingly. But yeah, it's a useless word. It is an irrelevant word like Islamophobia. I mean, obviously, there's no such thing as an irrational fear of Islam. There's no irrational fear of a hateful, misogynistic religion. It is clearly wrong in every way. Well, maybe not everything it says. There's certainly good things that can be said in the Quran, but I'm against all religion. I think it's worthless stuff. And the Quran and Islam is one of them that I particularly don't like. Because, we've heard plenty about Christianity. We all know Christianity is just nonsense. But we need to keep the nonsense factor to maximum overdrive when we're talking about Islam. Because it is clearly evil. And it is self-evidently evil. And it is the biggest problem. And it is the true patriarchy. The real misogynistic world, the real place where there's actual patriarchy that's actually oppressive, is not in the Western world. It is not in places like the US and Britain and Canada and Australia and Germany, all these places. It's not in the West. It is clearly in other parts of the world, especially the Muslim-dominated ones. Not just the Muslim-dominated ones, but especially the Muslim-dominated ones. Like Pakistan, just for one example, one of the most evil cultures to women is Pakistan. And, I mean, people just, they don't want to talk about the truth. They don't want to actually fight actual sexism or racism or, horrible religious nonsense. They just want to make themselves feel better. And what makes them feel better in the West, apparently, is to be a big narcissist who says, hey, men are the problem, patriarchy. And, that just makes them happy. And they don't actually want to fight anything important. And then they just keep going on with their lives, saying, oh yeah, men do everything bad, and this is why I fail. And it's not true. Ladies, it's not true. We want you to be happy. That's the simple fact. Men want women to be happy. And it is clear that some men want women to be so happy that they will horribly emasculate themselves in order to make that a reality. And that's what pretty much every male feminist is. They're just whipped as shit and just will do anything to make their woman happy. And you can tell it doesn't make them happy. Like, women do not want a male feminist as a date at all. They don't want them at all. They don't even want to think about that for the most part, unless they're incredibly butch, which, that's another topic. But yeah, patriarchy is just a waste of time to talk about. It doesn't exist in the West at all. Besides names, I guess. I'll give you that, feminists. We still think that women should take the man's name, that last name, but you fight that all the time, you can put your dashes in, you can just keep your maiden name. Go ahead. I don't want anything to do with you, but if you find a man who does, go right ahead. Doesn't matter. Do what you want. It's not like your last name means a goddamn thing. It's just a name. It's just a word used to describe you. That's all a name is. So please, don't put such a big deal on it if you're actually fighting that. But if you're fighting anything else, then it's nonsense. It's absolute nonsense. And you all know it. You all know it's nonsense. You're just... Feminism, to me, is just like the biggest shit test that has ever happened in the history of mankind. That's all I think it is, really. Because there is no way any sane women actually believe this stuff. They just think, hey, I bet I can really test men with this, and, I might get good things out of it. And, well, they clearly have. Men en masse are just idiots, apparently. Which sucks. I don't really like being put in the camp of idiots, but, it is true, I guess. We, as men, are just insane and would do anything for women, I see. And, I don't really fault us. It's deeply rooted in our biology, but women, if this is the truth, if feminism's a huge shit test, and you don't believe a single word of it, well, first off, thank you for saying the truth, in your head at least, and just stop. It's a waste of time. It's so much easier to actually shit test people with actual things, instead of shit testing them by making shit up all day, and saying you're sexist all the time, because we don't like that. Men don't like that, and when you're old, when the men who you ensnare with this bullshit, when you get old and unattractive, you think they're going to care anymore? No, they will not. They will not care anymore if you actually ensnare them with this nonsense. Because you're not only not attractive anymore, but you continue to spew this bullshit. And, men can take bullshit from hot women because you're hot. So we're like, well, I can take bullshit all day because I want that pussy. But when you're not hot, we don't take shit. from anything. We don't give a shit. Fuck you. That's when most men understand the fuck you. I personally want to say the fuck you even when you're attractive, because it's insane. But, normal men, they'll say fuck you when you get unattractive. And what are you going to do then? You're not going to find anyone again if you're old and unattractive. You're not. It's not going to happen. At least, it's very unlikely. So if it is a big shit test, you've won. Okay? You've won. You've got all you need. Please just stop. Please just stop. Feminism is so worthless. It's such a waste of everyone's time in the West, because it doesn't believe in any equality at all. It just wants more power. That's all it is. It's just a big power game that doesn't do a damn thing. And it's very unhelpful with fixing gender relations. Because, it's the thing that created the problem in the first place. So, first step for any lady out there who's listening, stop being a feminist. Just stop. I don't care. Your word is so tainted and so horrible that there's no redeeming it. It has fallen into the acid of evil for so long that whatever's left of it is just bones. If anything good was part of it at one point, it has been evaporated into the acid. It has been just completely melted away into the acid to be nothing. It doesn't exist. And, I'm fine with equal pay. I'm fine with equal opportunity. Yes, ladies, we understand. We don't want to oppress you. Okay? But this ideology that you have, feminism, is just absolutely evil. It's absolutely evil. And if you want the world to be a place that makes any sense at all, and where gender relations can actually occur naturally and happily, then feminism's gotta go. It's gotta go. It is over. It is evil now. It has become the thing it was apparently out to destroy. 100%. It has become the system. And this system, I fear, is much worse than our past systems. Because the rights we had in the past are being eroded away. Because, sure, in the past, we had these rights, but sometimes they were completely ignored. But now, we understand the problems with ignoring it for anyone. But now you want to ignore it for everyone instead. Because free speech is hurtful sometimes. Oh no, it hurt my feels. Oh no. I don't care. I don't care about your feels. Your feels are irrelevant to the matter at hand. Sure, if I were dating you, if you were somebody I was talking to, sure, I would understand that your feelings are something I would have to consider. However, that's not going to stop me from telling the truth. Your feelings don't change the truth. At all. And I'm not going to sugarcoat it. I refuse to sugarcoat it for women. And, I have never sugarcoated what I believe. And I'm not going to. I don't care anymore. There's been too much that I've seen in the world for me to even think about sugarcoating a goddamn thing. To anyone. Especially women. Your feelings are irrelevant. Your feelings are irrelevant to the actual matter. Because facts don't care about feelings. I'm sorry. Facts do not care about feelings. So, patriarchy, feminism, all this stuff, you either address actual problems, like in the Middle East, or shut the fuck up and go away. Because you're so irrelevant and nonsensical. You're just a waste of everyone's time, especially yours. You could be doing actual good things. I'm sure you could. I'm sure you could do actual good things. But you're not. You're not doing good things. You are doing evil things. And you're hurting everything that makes sense in the world. All the time. You just continue to spread men and women apart. Just to make them, they can't fit. And they're supposed to fit. And they fit fine. If we can just be free. If things were just free. If we were actually free people, able to make our own goddamn choices in this world, without anyone saying things like the patriarchy all the time and making everyone fearful of each other, then this wouldn't be happening. At least not the rate it is. And we wouldn't have these rape crisis things because, well, rape wouldn't be an issue nearly as much. If we had better parenting and, better gender relations, rape wouldn't happen. At least it would be very rare for it to happen. But no, you continue to spout this. You continue to just spew nonsense out of your face. And it hurts men. It hurts men. Sorry if you didn't realize that, but it hurts men. And not only men, it hurts women too. It hurts women and you. It hurts you. How about that, you're narcissists? It hurts you, because how the hell are you ever going to get a fucking boyfriend if you want one, if you're going to continue to spew that shit? Especially if you want to keep a boyfriend. There was no way in hell I would ever date a feminist. 100% the truth. No way in hell that I would date a feminist. I might hate fuck one. I might do that. But there's no way in hell I would actually date one. And if you want an actual date, then you might want to consider getting rid of your little mantra. And maybe actively opposing it. That would be fun too. Not a lot of women who do that, but, there certainly are. And I applaud every single one of them. But yeah. So basically, this is just a rant about patriarchy and feminism. And a little bit Islam and all that stuff in there. So, I'm pretty much done for now. So thank you for listening, and I'll see you next time. And freedom will not die. At least, as long as I can say something about it. Goodbye.